in ruin! Took Davy Jones' locker with you! Oh, that had to hurt! Looks like you just lost a fart!
Healing makes Stitches happy.
Could always use another soul in me crew! A good kill there!
Healing makes Stitches happy. I hear and obey.
Nice work. Keep it up.
Choose a talent! Huh? They're all paid up? Ah, yeah. Let's get to the fun part! Show these landlubbers what we're made of!
I am on my way.
So you're dead. You'll get over it. I love it! All cannons hold! You think you can open both chests, you landlubbers?
So hungry. I hear and obey.
Looks like your foe beat you to it. Let this be a lesson to you. Oh, that had to hurt.
Nobody harder than me.
Your enemy's destroyed a fart.
Hunger.
Well then, who's got the coin for me services? use a talent. Looks like your enemies all paid up. Fire, you blackguards!
We cannot let our ally fall.
Arg! Arg! What? Fun to say. Cease fire! If they want more, they'll need to pay up first. That one's not getting up. Hero slay!
Good healer. Must retreat. Where? This way?
Your core is under attack!
Protect our ally.
All right. Our ally be needing help here.
Looks like your enemies all paid up. Fire, you blackguards! You just lost the key. Main cannon! enemy has it out for you. What are you waiting for? Fire!
So hungry. Going as fast.
Your enemies destroyed a keep. That's enough! We don't be working for free!
Hungry for flesh. Me go.
Retreat!
Time for a short reprieve.
Your core is under attack!
Going as fast as I can.
Good kill there! Double kill!
Money I died. Healing makes stitches happy.
Let's skip the treasure hunt! It's right there! Go grab it!
Obey. Going as fast as can. All right. Me go.
Your core is under attack!
In your heart, call upon it.
Open wide, with no alibi. It's a day in the life of losing out to your inside. Say you're surprised, the signs in your eyes. It's after the fight, a sucker punch to your windpipe. Time to strike, got it out of your mouth. Yeah, you talk so tough, just to spit it out. Time to strike, got me out of your mouth. Yeah, you talk so tough, just to spit it out. Time to strike, got it out of your mouth.
Defeat its guardians, and the Punisher will be ours.
He was a lonely snake. No, he would never fight until he had a vision. She had golden eyes and spoke her mind. Now he's in a bed, it sets you free. Friendships that never fall apart. So if you feel love, sit back and try to flow. Make the collapse and take what comes to mind. So if you feel love, sit back and try to flow. Make the collapse and take what comes to mind.
I got into the paradox of inertia with the last message, which as a synonym is lifelessness. It's a form of death, another synonym for death. That's because death keeps moving forward indefinitely. It's the unstoppable force that keeps going forward unless there's some other force, some other factor that gets in the way, that causes a disruption, a disturbance. Some other factor. Obviously, that factor in this case, as I got into, is the heart, the immovable object. Keep full circle back onto it. That's what death is. It's all about endings, including itself. But it's so blind that it can't even see its own end. That's why you'll never hear in stats the number one leading cause of death is death. It always tries to defer and say that it's this, that, or the other thing. Well, no, the number one cause of death is death itself, obviously. But it's not so obvious, is it? These things have to be pointed out. You're waking up in the land of the dead. Open your real eyes.
Right plans will have to accept.
Yeah, a lot of people just talking like a cancer cell. I don't know what to say. That's just going to be unfortunate. I don't know what to say. But if you're willing to be fooled, because no one promised that the truth was going to be easy or everything. So all these thumbs up, all my new subscribers, I've almost hit this certain number. It's gotta mean something. Is utilized in Nazi Germany. Everything an illusion is another factor of insulation. Then one doesn't have to dwell upon the consequences. One all of humanity. That's why those who
I hope you're having a great day so far. We wanted to apologize for making you guys wait so long for that last video, but I think it was worth it. Not only that, but a lot of you guys reached out to us to make sure everything was okay, and that just really touched us, so we're gonna try and do some smaller, more consistent videos. Also, if you haven't seen the Homunculus Unveiled video and you like long-form content, make sure you check that out. In that video, we break down the idea and the history of the homunculus. It'll help understand these pop culture videos that we're going to be working on. I think it's safe to say that even if it wasn't directly noticeable, that this subject has been in our faces since we were children. So today we're going to be discussing one of my favorite shows as a kid, the Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls was one of the most popular shows in the late 90s. The art style was completely unique, the animation was surreal and unforgettable. You know, very appealing to young children with the simple shapes and colors and funny narrator. However, the subject matter of the show was actually quite dark and oftentimes disturbing. But we all know that as kids, we don't really pick up on that stuff. All we can see is these adorable, butt-kicking supergirls. Now, as adults, we can see how strange, horrifying, and bizarre some of these episodes truly were. So who are the Powerpuff Girls? The story revolves around 3 kindergarten-aged girls who have superpowers: Blossom, Bubbles, and Buttercup. They each have their own personality and color. Blossom being the leader, showing both feminine and masculine attributes, Buttercup being the masculine energy of the group, and Bubbles being the feminine aspect. Now this was aired on Cartoon Network, so it definitely was designed for children. Yet the subject matter of the show references some of the deepest secrets of alchemy in the occult. So what is the show really about? Well, it starts with a scientist named Professor Utonium. He's, a scientist trying to discover the mysteries of the universe. He ends up attempting to engineer the perfect little girls in his lab when a mystery ingredient called Chemical X is accidentally added to his mix. The intro scene makes it seem that it was the professor's fault. But just out of frame, there's his monkey lab assistant, who's throwing a temper tantrum, forcing the professor's elbow to crash into the round-bottom flask, releasing this mysterious liquid into the magical girl concoction. Remember Libra Vacai? Well, basically, this monkey is the key to the genesis of the Powerpuff Girls in more ways than one. So what the heck is Chemical X? Well, it's a black goo-like substance that we see inside of this large flask, possibly representing the Philosopher's Stone, or the final ingredient to the creation of the homunculus. As a result of mixing the Chemical X in a cauldron with sugar, or fermentation, then spice, or you could say herbs, and then everything nice, which seems to be a reference for astrology or astral energies, as it seems to represent the desires for gifts from imagination, stars, rainbows, animals. Then, after choosing these 3 ingredients to create the perfect little girls, the accident occurs and the Chemical X black goo substance falls into the mixture. This event creates these 3 divine glowing beings that are little children with big heads, reminiscent of a makeup powder puff or even a powder puff flower. This is of course blatantly alchemical, but it goes much deeper than that. There's one particularly shocking episode that shows the very dark side of the sacred knowledge. Knock It Off. In Season 4, Episode 7, there's an episode called Knock It Off, and it begins with the professor getting a phone call from his old college roommate, Dick Hardley. Now, this character is not in any other episodes, and it's very weird that they would name him Dick. Yeah, sure, that's a very common guy name, and he is a jerk, but it seems this name was chosen on purpose to represent a specific symbol. Could be that it's a generative reference. Well, this Dick Hardley wants to meet up with the professor just to catch up. And the professor, feeling nostalgic, starts to reminisce on old times, and interestingly there's a shot where he says, "We explored and discovered the universe together." Now on its own, it doesn't seem like much, but when you add it together with everything else, this is a clear reference to the ancient astrologers, as the professor is essentially a modern-day alchemist. However, Dick is shown to not really have done any of the work, merely parasiting off the professor, who was completely oblivious to this fact. Dick took credit for Utonium's work all the time, and he hasn't changed one bit. It's pretty obvious that the only reason he's even visiting the professor is to see if he can pilfer any of his old buddies' fresh ideas. So Professor Dick shows up at the Utonium household, unaware of the Powerpuff Girls since he lives in a different town. Well, Professor Utonium gives him a tour of the house while Dick probes him for information on how much money he's making, all the while roasting him on the interior of his house. When he asks to see the lab, Utonium says he doesn't want to go in there because it's messy and it's being cleaned by the girls. Dick suggests that the kids go play somewhere else because he and their dad have business to discuss. But before he can finish that thought, he witnesses the Powerpuff Girls flying around and cleaning the room with their superpowers. He immediately, without hesitation, sees this as an opportunity for making insane amounts of money. The professor, however, views them as children, his daughters, and he proudly states that he's their creator and their father. But of course, Dick can only see them as a gold mine. Dick even reveals why he actually came. He says that he knew one of Utonium's little inventions would turn into a cash cow. He even suggests marketing the Powerpuff Girls as a food. Seriously, what a sick and twisted guy. This outburst naturally infuriates the professor, and he sternly tells Dick to leave immediately and to keep clear of him and his kids forever. However, Dick keeps pressing him from outside his house before he has another big brain idea. He ends up stalking the girls, and like a creep, he pulls up to them while they're just leaving school. They know they're not supposed to talk to strangers, but then he reminds them that he was roomies with their dad, so they think it's okay. Blossom comments on his cool car, and He jumps on the opportunity and weirdly asks them if they want to ride home. On the way to their house, he asks them what they're made of, and they tell him. And he ends up manipulating them into stealing Chemical X from Professor Utonium. Dick does this by explaining to the girls that there's just so much evil in the world, and he says how awesome it would be if there were more Powerpuff Girls that would help fight outside of Times Square. Basically, he convinces them to lie and steal for the greater good. The girls, now feeling guilty, decide to steal some Chemical X and give it to him, keeping it a secret from Professor Utonium. Dick is so desperate to get his hands on this thing. He literally says, "Gimme, gimme, gimme, gimme," before getting it. Now, this is when it gets scary. He rushes off and heads to this really eerie abandoned factory on a cliff over the water, which he breaks into in order to start mass producing his own Powerpuff Girls. So he takes the ingredients and the Chemical X and uses them to create his own Powerpuff Girls like a mad scientist. You see a very similar scene to the opening intro, but of course different. The look on his face is greed the entire time. Once the explosion happens, we see him laughing maniacally in the corner. He then takes this creation and treats it like a product, even slapping them on the head when they're moving under the sheet. Dick, seeking investors, begins to pitch these new homunculi as the ultimate superheroes that will protect cities from evil and crime. But even with his first batch, you can tell something's not quite right with these girls. In the next scene, we see the girls and the professor sitting on the couch watching the news, where Dick's bootleg Powerpuff Girls are seen in New York. That night in bed, the girls admit that they feel weird about lying to their dad, but try to reassure themselves that they made the right choice. The guilt-ridden words of Professor Dick clearly made an impact on them, but it's also clear that they're feeling unsure about the whole thing. After this first sale, we start to see an insane sequence. Dick is doing this in multiple cities with multiple different batches, with each batch of the unsanctioned Powerpuff Girls becoming more uncanny and deformed. And after every batch, the factory on the cliff grows more and more in size, showing this to be a very profitable operation. Dick is sending these black market Powerpuff Girls all over the world. Then we see that he invented a different way to create them for speed, and we see them on a conveyor belt, looking more like hollow dolls than real-life girls. Due to his lack of care and cheap labor, they start to become all mixed up, resembling a blend of the different variations of the three girls. They're being packaged in a massive operation, handled roughly by metal claws, and placed into cardboard and plastic boxes. It's a truly heartbreaking scene when you think of how sweet and pure the original Powerpuff Girls are. But of course, all Dick cares about is money. More speed, more homunculi. This was his cash cow. All the while, these Powerpuff derivatives are flying around the world fighting crime, but the results are obviously diminished. In India, we have a Mojo Jojo counterpart, Raja Jaja, who's attacking the city with some crystal laser beam. Of course, India's newly purchased defense system gets the job done, but just barely. You can see the leg of one of the girls fall off like a loose tooth, showing
just a pie. At heart, at heart. I'm top dog, like the best that you had. Work in the bike, got a feud in the bag. Automatic flash when I'm hopping up the ooh, that's another ooh in the bag. I'm top dog, like the best that you had. Work in the bike, got a feud in the bag. Automatic flash when I'm hopping up the ooh, that's another ooh in the bag. If I want you in my lap, then I'll call you
Making the obvious
back
drop
for
in
that.
overall
If
quality.
you need
When sales dip,
me to
Dick demands his
attack,
exhausted factory workers to cut the chemical X in half. We see customers complaining to Dick on the phone, where he dismisses their claims and just pushes them to buy a newer model. Then we see Dick doing quality control, as he stands them all in a line and harshly judges them. In this crowd, we can see many of the Powerpuff Girls' extreme are very deformed and only slightly resembling their originals. We even see a one-eyed Powerpuff Girl and even a Blemmy Powerpuff. When he sees a Buttercup clone that's perfect, he demands his workers to cut back on the sugar. He even demands that she be melted down for her chemical X. Dick even goes so far as to market these Powerpuff Girls Extreme on a cheesy TV infomercial. It's here that the girls see the commercial and become enraged by his lies. On their way to go beat his butt, the professor questions them on their world travels, and they lie to him before zooming off to Dick's freaky factory. When they get there, they tell him to stop, but he completely ignores their concerns and just demands that they steal more chemical X for him. Or that's what they think. His actual plan was just to melt them down and take it from them. Girls try to retrieve the chemical X that he's got left, but in an attempt to keep it all to himself, he swallows the entire thing. When he does this, he starts convulsing, foaming at the mouth.
You know why. If I want you in my lap, then I'll call you back for that. If you need me to attack, I'm your number one. I'm top dog, like the best that you had. Work in the bike, got a few in the bag. Automatic flash when I'm hopping out the ooh, that's another ooh in the bag. take another piece out of my heart. Unconditional, I'll give you everything you ever want. Unconditional, I'll take another piece out of my heart.
Choose a talent. Just spotted more of our captured forces. Get ready for a counter break.
He was a lonely snake. No, he knew no feeling inside until he had a fish top dog, and I like to swing in the dark. And if you know the movie Wild at Heart, yeah, I could be like the girl in Wild at Heart. I'm always happy because I only do what I want. Yeah, I could be like the girl in Jurassic Park. At heart. I'm top dog, like the best that you have. forever. Adrenaline is rushing through my body tonight. Can't sleep, so maybe you could pick me up for a ride. We're going nowhere, but going fast. See your bodies through the glass. Is it crazy if I say I wanna go on a 5? Push it faster, don't be scared, I'm just in me for the night. Can we go faster? Let's go. Can we go faster? Can we ride low, 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 low? Baby, just go, 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 go. Do you believe you'll live forever? You'll live forever, oh, we'll live forever. Can we ride low, 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 low? Baby, just go, 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 go. Do you believe you'll live forever? You'll live forever, oh, we'll live forever. The phenomenon of blood is burning up in the night. Crash into the reflections of the stars in your eyes. We're going nowhere, but going fast. See your bodies through the glass. Is it crazy if I say I've never felt more alive? Push it faster, don't be scared, I'm just in me for the night. Can we go faster? Let's go. Can we go faster? Can we ride low, 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 low? Baby, just go, 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 go. Do you believe you'll live forever? You'll live forever, oh, we'll live forever. Can we go ride, one ride? Baby, burn out in the bitter light. Can we go ride, one ride? Burn out in the bitter light, metal flying in the sky. Can we go fast and let me know? Do you believe you'll live forever? You'll live forever, oh, we'll live forever. We're listening to. Can we go faster? Let's go. Can we go faster? Can we ride low, low, low? Baby, just go, 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 go. Do you believe we'll live forever? We'll live forever. We'll live Party's done. I found you there. Almost done. You don't tell me I'm alone. I change my face. I take my place. I don't wanna cry anymore.
before transforming into a massive mutant creature. It's kind of creepy because at first it's played off as a joke, and then it goes into this gruesome transformation where he's some sort of hulking Cthulhu creature. From the distance, the deformed Powerpuff Girls are watching the original girls fight the mutated Dick Hardley. The girls try to fight him, but he traps them in a glass contraption designed to completely suck out the chemical X. Inside this glass tube, the girls are being extracted of their life force, and an empty flask is being filled with the chemical X being extracted from them. Now, as much as I enjoy this show, I have to say that this was way too far for a concept for children to be seeing. The very next scene is the professor walking in looking for his girls, and from the back he sees 3 girls. He reaches out to them expectantly, but when they turn around, they're these hybrid deformed creatures, and of course the professor is just horrified. He sees all the sick things that Dick has made. Unexplainable things. Obviously, they're trying to make this as traumatic as possible. Most disturbing of all is now his real girls are dying in the flask, being dissolved of their chemical X. Professor Utonium confronts Dick and begs him to let them go, and interestingly tries to sacrifice himself in order to save them. Word for word, Dick says, "Am I to understand that you will sacrifice your life for theirs? And you'll stay here and make chemical X forever?" The professor agrees as long as his girls will be safe. Unsurprisingly, greedy monster Dick Hardley tells the professor that he's a fool and that he's gonna keep them both. Dick tells his army of homunculi to capture the professor, and when Utonium sees this, he says, "Oh Dick, what have you made?" He presses himself upon the glass of the flask and reassures his girl
What did I get yesterday? Oh, just a little cold, but I still want you close.
Consider your fate.
And as one, it is destined.
Collect the seed, and don't fret, Dr. Sanders. They don't feel at home.
That's
Girls who are lying limp on the ground that it's going to be okay. The army of monstrous beings crowd surfs Professor Utonium away, but not before he tells the girls that he loves them. Tears start to flow from his eyes, and they say that they love him back before passing out. The malformed Powerpuff Girls see this and show for the very first time a sense of emotional depth. They've of course never heard these words before, and being made of loosely the same ingredients as the original Powerpuff Girls, they react in a similar fashion, with empathy. This empathy, though, quickly turns to fury as they realize that their creator has robbed them of the love and care they deserve. Dick demands that they take the professor away, but they rebel. They start to turn on him, chanting his name over and over again. They say, "You never gave us love." They ask, "Where was our love?" And as this is happening, the Powerpuff Girls are lying in the glass dome, looking lifeless with some sort of disease that sort of resembles leprosy. Once the bulk of the knockoff Powerpuff Girls have taken Dick Hardly down, another group lifts the dome from the girls and they tell the professor to take the girls and get out before it's too late. They escape by the skin of their teeth and the professor holds his girls as he weeps. Interestingly, these tears seem to restore the Powerpuff Girls. So the professor essentially acts like a Jesus figure in healing them instantly through love, which doesn't make too much sense since all of their chemical X was extracted. Yet apparently they can be revived with love from the professor alone. Now anyone could argue that underneath the disturbing shell there's a good message about love and caring, and I'm sure that's fine for an older audience, but I don't know, it just seems a little too far for a show with a TVY7 rating. I'm sure there were other ways they could have portrayed this message, but they chose to go a very dark and visually disturbing route. These symbols, I feel, were chosen on purpose to display deep occult secrets branded for young minds. Now, this isn't a complete breakdown of the Powerpuff Girls series, but there are some things we should mention before we go on. First, let's talk about the devil character. I know that this used to terrify Soul as a kid, but this demon called Him is an androgynous devil with large lobster-like claws. There's not too much known about the origins of Him, but what we do know is that this character is essentially a supernatural divine being not of this world. Him is immortal and has the ability to shapeshift, possess creatures and objects. He can control minds, stop time, and he can also cause horrific visions. He doesn't seem to have any motive other than just this pure sadistic pleasure of others' suffering. Then there's of course Mojo Jojo, the monkey who initially caused the Chemical X to fall into the cauldron. During the Chemical X explosion, a young Mojo was affected by the chemicals, turning him into a genius mutant with an enlarged brain. This also caused his skin to turn green and gave him new advanced emotions, like envy, for instance. Mojo Jojo is closely related to the Powerpuff Girls, as he too was created and transformed during this accidental event. Powerpuff Girls, as he too was created or transformed during this accidental event. You could argue that they also have the same father. Mojo Jojo claims that he turned evil because the professor lost interest in him after the creation of the Powerpuff Girls. Now, if you remember from Book of the Cow, a monkey was used in the creation of an artificial being. Make sure you check out that 10-hour video if you want to know more about that. But it somehow gets even crazier because Mojo is not only the one who caused the accident, but he's responsible for the professor's desire to even create the perfect little girls in the first place.
In an episode called Get Back JoJo, Mojo Jojo goes back in time to prevent the Powerpuff Girls from ever existing. This episode begins at career day at Pokey Oaks Kindergarten, the school the Powerpuff Girls attend. When it's the professor's turn, he shows off a new invention, a time machine. Interestingly, some of these levers do look very alchemical, and this machine allows one to go back to any time that he wishes. While he's presenting this, Mojo Jojo walks by the school and overhears him talking about how the professor didn't even want to be a scientist, and that it was some mysterious event in the past that inspired him to become a scientist and create the Powerpuff Girls, but he doesn't mention what this is. Mojo Jojo sees this as an opportunity. He makes the decision to kidnap a girl named Mary and steal her clothes to hide in the crowd as an imposter. Seems kind of messed up. For some reason, the professor is smart enough to create a time machine, but not smart enough to notice a green monkey wearing a dress.
the altars and put an end to the greatest bugbear. Enough of this shrine. Bring down the your powers will be mad, brave, like all the others.
As evil as your words.
One night is taking up my whole life.
Welcome to my chair.
All the words you spoke, I'm looking for some antidote. That's right. Time wasn't right, so you said, baby, how'd you let me go for something that I can't control? I've been waiting for some time, waiting on the cosmos around. Did you know that I've been waiting all this time? Spent frozen in the sun, waiting on the cosmos around. Did you know that I've been waiting? Did you know that I've been waiting? 'Cause you're mine. Don't cry, I tell myself that you nothing ain't right. Maybe you'd hate me. How'd you make me so? You've got me on some mind control. I've been waiting, frozen in time, waiting on the cosmos around. Did you know that I've been waiting all this time? Frozen in the sun, waiting on the cosmos around. Did you know that I've been waiting? 'Cause you're mine,
Let the grave under my power.
Did you know that I've been waiting? 'Cause you're mine.
From me.
I will not return to those wretched minds.
Impressive, heroes. The tower is mine. We hold all 6 towers. Commence bombardment upon the gravekeeper.
What? I mean,
So there's this strange obliviousness with the professor that often contradicts his level of intelligence. This is actually further expanded upon when Mojo Jojo realizes that the professor can dial in the exact time when he was inspired. Upon doing this, Mojo Jojo discards Mary's stolen dress and jumps into the time machine in an effort to stop the professor from ever getting inspired. So Mojo Jojo goes through a time loop and goes back to the same school in 1959. He begins looking for the professor in the school and hears a classroom in session. He looks through the window and sees a very smart kid who is basically the know-it-all of the class, and he sorta looks like Professor Utonium, and so Mojo Jojo starts to think that this is the professor. But it's not. The professor is actually the kid behind this know-it-all, and then we see this kid with a square-shaped head who was the bully class clown, and lo and behold, it's the young Professor Utonium. Basically, when Mojo first looks into the window, the classroom is watching this movie on volcanoes. This is no accident, and there is symbolism at play. We see this old safety film on Townsville. Weirdly, the first shot has a huge sign that says "Eat pork," and that doesn't seem like an accident. We learn that there's an active volcano. This is no ordinary volcano, and I would argue it's a symbol for Vulcan and/or sacrifice. The movie is a safety video on volcanoes, but it's obviously being cryptic. It says, quote, "Jimmy thought it would be cool to goof around the volcano." And the thing is that the authors of this specifically hid what they were trying to say by making it essentially PG, instead of Jimmy falling in the volcano, which is obviously what they were suggesting. For some reason, instead of showing Jimmy falling in the volcano, he actually gets in an accident while driving and dies. The kids are also shocked upon seeing this. Then we see 3 girls who love to hang out on top of the volcano. This again is no accident. But we find out that this volcano actually causes disease and people become very sick. The narrator urges children to talk to their parents about the volcano. Upon one child asking the parent about whether he can play on the volcano or not, and then the father pulls down the newspaper and we see that he's covered in hives and tumors. He says, "I'm glad you asked that question," but he never really actually answers him strangely. Then we see the mayor, but he never really answers him strangely. Then we see the mayor of Townsville come into the video and he has a special message. He says, "Hey kids, my favorite thing to do is to throw things in the volcano. Try it, it's great fun." Whoa, wait, I thought this was a safety film for children. And they obviously let the mayor on to give a special message. Sure, the narrator tries to correct him, and you may think that they're just discussing throwing random objects in the volcano. But they are referencing children. That's the scary part. He literally says, "No, I mean throw things into the volcano." The narrator doesn't even argue with him or try to correct him, and then the film abruptly ends with the scientist, mayor, and a person inside of a volcano suit that looks very similar to a Yule log. We also see 3 children watching these 3 figures. After the lights are turned on, there is this weird scene with cerebellum, and this is another weird reference in the show. It's very interesting that we get a puzzle piece in that her face is covered with an apple representing the fruit of knowledge. To quickly note, Cerebellum is the mayor's loyal secretary and deputy. Now in this episode, we see that the mayor is already very old in 1959 and Miss Bellum is just a child. Yet in another episode, Speed Demon, we learn that Miss Bellum has an obsessive attachment to the mayor's hat and actually insinuates that she was always in love with him, despite the fact that he's married and decades older than her. Let's not forget all these strange sexual innuendos present with her scenes and how obviously the mayor is attracted to her. He even gets her to dress provocatively for his pleasure in the episode in Peach Fuzz. She's considered to be the brains behind the mayor, who believes that she's the head of Countdown as she handles most of the mayor's priorities. So she's essentially a secret Red Queen. This very well can connect to Mary Magdalene or a harlot fertility god, as Bellum is also representative of the cerebellum. It's interesting because she's considered the 4th Powerpuff Girl for some reason. She even helps him out on multiple occasions. She's also considered a recluse, but that's never fully explained, especially with her looks. Also, Miss Bellum was removed from the 2016 reboot because they thought that she was offensive. Anyways, so this is when Mojo Jojo discovers that the professor is not
wanted. Afternoon in heaven. All I ever want is to be next to you, catch a falling star. 'Cause that's just what you are to me. All I ever wanted. Afternoon in heaven. All I ever want is to be holding you. The stuff is just too far. 'Cause that's just what you are to me.
find something else to fight over.
Agreed.
I see you from my window. Don't you know what you got to do? You finally come this far. So even though the wind blows, don't you mind the storm ahead? You know what you've got to do. You've already come this far. You've already come this far. Castle on a hill, nobody's home. XO, love in the air. There's air in the back of violins and me singing hello. XO, haunting me. Toujours dans ma tête, dans ma soirée, trois positions. XO, c'est XO, quelle surprise. Castle on a hill, nobody's
Misericordia de nosotros y del mundo entero. Por su dolorosa pasión. Misericordia de nosotros y del mundo entero. Por su dolorosa pasión. Ten misericordia de nosotros y del mundo entero. Por su dolorosa pasión.